Welcome into Tuesday, everyone, for another edition of our Tuesday Tips for Parents series. Today we're going to be continuing off of what we talked about last week, is just helping parents to recognize when kids are not adjusting very well to school, when something could be going on, and then just trying to help with some suggestions and hints as to what are some things that we may be able to do that would help our kids. So again, before we get started, if you have any comments, suggestions, questions that you want to submit, you can comment below on the video. You can send us an email at skillsforkids@outlook.com, or you can give us a phone call or a text at 336-270-6825, and we will be able to address those issues or concerns on one of our shows. Now, just to sort of go on from last week we talked about a few different things that you can watch for in your kids, just to try to see if they're adjusting well, maybe not adjusting quite so well, with some small things that may seem halfway normal, but may also indicate that something is not going exactly as you had hoped during school. So a few more of those for this week, and we have two that we're going to talk about. Okay, the first is just sort of crankiness and lack of cooperation, especially when your child is normally very cooperative and not very cranky and gets along with their siblings. So increased agitation with siblings, increase in just not getting along very well with them. So those of you with multiple children probably notice that as long as you're on your normal routine and everything is going every day like it is supposed to, like it is in your normal schedule, kids are less anxious, they're less stressed out, and they're usually fairly easy to get along with. For those who have kids in school, since that's what we're talking about, come a long weekend, come a break in the schedule during the week because maybe there's a teacher work day or early release day, summer comes along, Christmas break comes along, any of those kinds of things, you probably have an increase in the amount of times that your kids just are not getting along. Those tensions really tend to flare sometimes during the summer because the schedule is typically up and down during the summer, meaning that it's usually not consistent for the entire summer, and that causes kids to be a little more cranky and anxious and not very cooperative sometimes. So that being said, 3 to 5 weeks into school, 4 to 5 weeks into school, everything should sort of become back to normal as far as how cooperative your child is, how well they get along with their siblings, how well they get along with others, should be back to what you would consider a normal state. If not, could be an indication that something is going on in school, just something that they don't like to deal with, something that's making them just in general a little bit more unhappy. You may notice increased fighting over things that they normally wouldn't fight over. You may notice increased amounts of name calling, or just jerking toys away instead of asking for them, or throwing things at the siblings or calling them names. Pay attention to these kind of things and see if it lessens a few weeks after school starts. If not, going back to last week, we need to have a conversation with our kids, like a fairly inquisitive conversation where we ask a lot of questions. Now, with this particular topic of the sibling rivalry, what's going to happen is, well, she did this first, or he said this, or he made me mad, she threw my toy across the room, whatever it may be. With older ones, they got my stuff, read my diary, took my clothes, took my earrings, whatever it may be. So you're going to have to be going into the conversation knowing that this is going to occur. Listen to what they have to say and simply respond with, I know how frustrating all of that must be, and not getting along right now has got to be very frustrating. But what I'm here to talk about today is your reactions to these things, what you feel like your part of it is, the way you're choosing to use words, the way you're choosing to fling things, or whatever it may be. So consistently bring them back to you. This is about you. It is not about your sister. It is not about your brother. I'll have that as a separate conversation with that person. Today I'm here to talk about you, or right now we're talking about you. The more reasons that you make, excuse me, the more reasons that you make them give to you, the closer to the truth that you're going to get. Because the first few reasons that they give for the increased tensions and what's going on, the further from the truth it's going to be, because they're really easy reasons to think of. The more they have to think about it, and the more they get to it, the closer to their heart it is, the closer to really what's going on it is, and the more indication it's going to give you as to what's going on. So that, again, reverting back to last week, you can help lay out this plan, include the other people that may need to be included, and help them in the very beginning of the year to go ahead and change it around and set them up for success for the rest of the school year. Another thing that we can look for is just an increased use of inappropriate language. And when I'm saying inappropriate language, it's going to go back and depend on the age of your child. The younger they are, the more likely that inappropriate language that you would not consider that you want them to use is they're calling other people dumb or idiots or dummies or shut up, or those types of words that you really don't want preschool, kindergarten using as they maybe they're more into video games or more into watching TV. They may begin to use some of those types of language that are used in some of those things that you don't consider appropriate for them to use. Kill, death, I'm going to kill you, oh, he died in the game and the blood gushed out and that was great. These kinds of things, because it's coming from frustration and anger and a general place of unhappiness in the kids. So they're going to be using this type of language more to lash out. Middle schoolers and high schoolers could use language, some of the four-letter words, some of that type of language that, again, you consider inappropriate. And it's going to really depend on your child, so that you're really going to have to know what may typically come out of their mouth and what may not. Our parents' first reaction is to let them know, you're not supposed to use that language. I don't want to hear it again. Not that that is not okay. You do want to do that because you do want to remind them what you consider to be appropriate and what you consider to be inappropriate. However, that's where most of us as parents stop, because we go, okay, I've done my job. I've let them know. Don't use that language again or you're in big trouble. Go to the second step with it. Find out why they're using that language. Is it because they don't even really know what it means? They heard somebody at school say it and they thought it was cool because they want to be friends with that person, so they use that language? Absolutely, it could be. But you're not going to know unless you really dig, and you dig deep into where the language is coming from. Because could it also be that they're unhappy, they're getting bullied at school, they feel dumb because they got, they feel like they've gotten bad grades, they feel like they've gotten picked on, whatever it may be. Yes, it could also be that. So out of frustration and hurt, disappointment, embarrassment, they're starting to use some language that they feel like is expressing themselves the way they want to express themselves. Again, kids are very emotional, and when they get very emotional, most of the time they don't know appropriately how to express themselves, and they don't know how to express which emotion it is that they're feeling. So again, you're going to have to dig deep. You're going to have to ask lots of questions. And the first few, brush them off. The first few answers, you get ready to brush those off a little bit and keep digging and keep digging and keep digging so that you can set that plan, so that your child goes back to using language that's appropriate. Language of a happy child versus an unhappy child. So I do hope this helps a little bit for this week. I hope over the last few weeks, the 5 or 6 different tips that we've given, I certainly hope those are very helpful. If there's anything else that we can do, if there are any other suggestions that we may be able to give, please don't hesitate to give us a call or text or an email, and I look forward to seeing you next Tuesday.